Hey kiddos, it's Angie. So let's get started on our first thrift flip today. These are going to be so much fun. Okay, so I got this frame at one of our local church thrift stores. I think I paid about $1.75 for it. It had a picture in it, some kind of fabric, something. It wasn't all that great, but anyway, I just wanted the frame. So I pulled everything out. I cut the mat to fit inside the inside edges where the glass would normally go. And then I'm going to staple it down. But first I'm going to give it a coat of Waverly white chalk paint. I'm going to do that to the mat instead of spray painting it, which you would all be thinking, yeah, why didn't you spray paint it? Well, I heard on another channel that somebody else did it, and they spray painted it, and it made the mat sticky, and it would not dry. So I was like, okay, I definitely want to use the chalk paint on it because I don't want it to be sticky and then still have to chalk paint it. So you're going to see that I'm going to use the Waverly white chalk paint. I did put about 2 coats on here. I put it pretty good. And because my tabletop is the Waverly chalk paint, I just, and it always needs a coat of white paint, I just went ahead and painted it on top of there without having a mat underneath there. Now I'm going to give the frame a good first coat, and then you're going to see when I staple this on here in a minute that it's looking kind of dingy. And I think even though I sanded the frame, I think it still had some oil or furniture polish down in it because I just lightly sanded it because it really didn't have a finish on it. I didn't think, but I think it was oiled instead. And either that or it brought the oil out after I sanded it. So you might want to, before you do it, use a clear coat on your frame if you think that it isn't, shellacked good. So I go ahead and I'm stapling this on the back, and I staple one side, flip it over, do the other side, stretch it tight. And, I do all 4 sides like that, and then I go around the edge each way. Now then, when you're using your stapler, make sure you use short staples. I did not, and therefore it poked through the other side. So I take a pair of nippers and nip the ends off of it, but I still have little marks where it has went through. So my solution with that is, you'll see here in a minute, is using sisal rope, which turned out perfect in the end, to hide those little imperfections where the staples had come through. So if you want to do yours like mine, go ahead and use whatever size staples you want. So there you can see I'm cutting the little staple ends off. Now this is just a little wooden piece that I have had for years and years and years, and I have a collection of them, and I think I paid like $1/4 for them. Now, of course, this is a thrift find, so or a thrift flip, so a lot of these things you might not be able to find. Now, I did have some Easter ones that I bought at Easter time that had Happy Easter on one side, so you could flip it over and use the back side, and would be super close to this. So what I'm doing is I'm using the Waverly wax in the brown, and I am using a wet paper towel to put it on and wipe it off. So I put it on pretty thick, and then I wipe it off with a wet paper towel, and it dries really quick, which is wonderful when you're trying to work. Now then I'm going to, see, there I am. I've tied knots in each one of the corners on the rope. So I had already measured it out, and then I kind of guesstimated where my knots were going to be, and then I'm going to hot glue it down, which is all I'm going to do to it, is hot glue it. Again, I like to hot glue, and there is where a little bit of glue slipped past that. So all you do is take your cold metal object. If it's a cold metal object on hot glue, it will stick to it, and you can get the extra up. It's a great tip if you've never done that, and I know I say it every time, but a lot of people are new on my channel, and I mean, I went from 1,000 to 2,000 in 9 days, so all you new people, I just want to say hi, and thank you for subscribing. This has been a great week and a half. I just want to say that. So anyway, so I'm going to take that sisal rope. Now, I got that rope from Dollar Tree. It's just that I think it's 6 or 9 foot of rope that you get for $1. And I've tied the knots so the knots line up in the corners. And then the last corner, I don't tie the last end. I'm measuring there. You can see I'm measuring, and I'm having to redo the knot just a little bit. Because, you know, when you stretch the rope, it's gonna stretch. What I would suggest doing is tie the knot, hot glue it down, go to the next corner, tie the knot. Not actually doing it the way I did it, but I was trying to save time on camera. And so I hope that helps you out. And then I trim all the excess off, and I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put that little piece. And I think I'm going to put it right in the middle when I get done. Now, this boxwood I got from Walmart. And, you know, I've used the crap out of this stuff. So it's like 97 cents a bush. And I think I pulled the ends of it off. And then I just make a laurel with it. And I hope I'm saying that like right. Laurel, Laurel. I think I spelled that right. Oh, heck, who knows? Y'all know what I'm talking about. The little, I don't know. Laurel, which is like a little flower wreath thing like the Romans wore. Okay, so anyway, I can't spell it, but I know what I'm talking about, I swear. Okay, so I'm just hot gluing it down, and I'm hot gluing one piece and then tucking the next piece underneath it. And that's how I hide all of that hot glue on there. And here in a minute, I'm going to take that burlap twine. It's a twine, wired twine is what it is from there. You can see it. And I make a 4-loop finger bow with it, and I make it pretty big. So you can see I wrapped it around all 4 of my fingers, and then I make 4 loops around, and then I leave tails. And because it's wired, it makes it super easy to make. So then I take another piece and just wrap around the middle and hot glue it, and then cut it off. Now, when you cut it off, you want to immediately hot glue those ends to that wire, because they are going to start unraveling immediately. So, unless that's the look you're going for, then you could just cut the wire off. Then, you know, that's great. But then I take the little needle nose pliers and I curl each end of the tails up, and then I fan out the bow. And then I'm just going to hot glue it in the middle at the bottom. Let's see if yeah, there I go. I'm going to hot glue it in, and then I'm going to take a piece of twine to the top that's not wired, but now you could have used wired. But I'm going to take a piece of twine, and I'm going to tie it to the top of that little wooden piece and make me a little loop. And then I'm going to take it up to the top and hot glue it just a little bit and pull it through, and then hot glue it a little bit on one side, and then I'm going to go to the back side after it dries a little bit and hot glue that back. I might show you how to do it here. Oh, there I go. And then I wrap it around in the front so that it covers itself, and there you go. Didn't it turn out awesome? I can't wait for you to see the whole little thing I got going on, but I thought it turned out super cute. So today's collaboration is with Corie over at Crafted by Corie. Y'all, I love this girl. She is super sweet. Anytime I have any questions, she helped me. I begged her to do this with me, and it didn't even take begging her. She was super sweet to agree to do a collab with me, and we decided on thrift flips, and then we saw Farmhouse was going to be done on a playlist, so we decided thrift flip Farmhouse. Now, y'all go over and tell Corie I sent you and show her some love. She is absolutely the sweetest thing ever. You're going to love her. I just think she's adorable. All right, for this next thrift flip, I got this giant candlestick. It's about, I think it's almost like 30 inches long, and it's metal, and it's, I paid like $8.58, which is a lot for me to pay for a candlestick or, you know, a wall hanging at the Goodwill. So I've already spray painted it the Rust-Oleum Ultra Matte Black. And now I'm going to take the Rust-Oleum Linen White, and I am going to take a chip brush, and I am going to dry brush it on. So basically what that dry brush means is I put the paint on and I take the paint off, and I only use just a little bit of residue is left on the paint to go over and give it a washed look with this white paint. So I just kind of brush the edges. I hit the edges pretty heavy on it, and I leave the middle. That's just how I do it. You can see me. I'll have it all done here in a minute. But, you know, I just kind of really just almost have no paint on there. I know y'all seen me dry brush before, but anyway. So the reason this thing was so cheap, because normally this would be probably about $15, but there's supposed to be a glass globe that fits down in that biggest round part over that candlestick. And so what I've decided to do, when I saw it, I was like, where am I ever going to find a globe that'll fit on there? Because, you know, it'd have to be like hollow at the top and hollow at the bottom and the perfect size round to go around that. Now, I might have been able to find one at Hobby Lobby, and then again, I might not have. So what I decided to do was I'm going to put a flower arrangement in it. So let's see if I do that. Okay, so there you see the paint. Now, I'm going to take some styrofoam, and I'm cutting little pieces, and I'm going to have to put like little pieces down in there. Now, this is round, and there's a stake down through the middle of it, so I have to put just little chunks of styrofoam in there and fill it in, you know, because you can't just get like a round piece and put it in there. So you have to fill in all your little gaps, and I put a little bit of hot glue around it. Anywhere there's a hole, here in a minute, I will put hot glue in it just to hold a little bit of the styrofoam down. I don't like to use a lot of hot glue when I'm gluing in styrofoam, because eventually I won't like these flowers, or they'll get dirty, and I want to save the piece, and so I don't want to have to try to repaint everything. So I just try to use a little bit of hot glue. Now, the next thing I'm going to do after I get all this styrofoam glued in is I'm going to take some Spanish moss, and I'm going to cover the green. Only in the front, not on the top, just because when you're doing flower arrangements, usually when you're looking at it straight on, because this one's, remember, is going to hang up on the wall, and I'm a short person, so honestly, whatever I can see is where I usually cover. So if you're tall, you might want to cover all the way to the back, but because that's what I can see, that's what I usually cover, is what I can see, which is probably a terrible idea. So you should cover the whole thing. That's what I should have said, is you should cover the whole thing in this Spanish moss. Now I do most of it, but you know, when it gets back up in there, I don't really worry about it. And I'm gonna tell you, the Spanish moss makes a big old mess. Now you can get reindeer moss and Spanish moss from Hobby Lobby, but I had this big old bag that I had cut up, and I've had it forever, and it looks horrible because I've got it in like a gallon baggie. It's kind of funny. But all right, so the things that I'm going to use in there, I'm not using them white flowers that I just showed you. I didn't like them. These white roses, I did use them, and I used 3. Now, when I'm doing flowers, I use all the leaves on the stem. If I'm going to use one, I might as well use all of them. So anything that was on that stem, I pushed it all the way to the top. When I'm doing short stuff, I use every bit I can get on there. Now, if I was doing something tall, I would leave it closer to the bottom to spread out the leaves, but, you know, therefore I didn't. Now, those roses came from, I want to say I got those from Walmart a couple of years ago. But now I've seen, they have those crocus somethings anyway right now, and they would be beautiful in a flower arrangement. Also, these little white ones, they're a little white, I think they're supposed to be like a little tea rose, and I just use 3 of the white roses, and then I use, I think, 6 of the little white stems with the little tea roses on them. So I put 2 in between each rose on each side. I try to keep, when I do flowers, especially the big ones, I try to keep them at an odd number. Odd numbers in flowers are more appealing to your eye. So now I'm going to take the boxwood, and I'm just filling in, and I'm also using some of it to drape down the bottom, over the bottom of the flower arrangement, so that I'm not seeing like that black plate completely. So it hides that black plate a little bit, not much, but not completely or anything, but just enough to make it look like I got flowers draping down. And then I fill in the holes with that boxwood that I got from Walmart. Now that boxwood is like, again, 97 cents a bush. I have a ton of it. I love it. If you need filler, it's the best filler in the world because it's kind of bushy when you pull it all out, and it cuts really well when you cut it apart. So let's see what I'm doing now. Oh, just filling in. I really do love doing flower arrangements. They're one of my favorite things to do. I just think they make such a great big show. I know a lot of people don't use silk flowers anymore, but I love them, and I love to do little flower arrangements with it. Now then, let's see if we can, yep, I'm going to add, see, I'm bending it in an L shape, and I'm going to make it, I'm bending that boxwood at an L shape so that it'll drape down instead of straight up. And you could do that with any flower arrangement that you have. Here it is hanging on the wall, and I did put a candle on it so that you can see kind of what it looks like from up above and then down below. This candelabra, I guess is what I'm going to call it, wall sconce, candle sconce, is perfect. So today we're joining the Heidi Sonboul DIY challenge, and it is a playlist that is everybody is doing farmhouse stuff. So if you love farmhouse stuff, you need to check that playlist out that's down below. Go over there and check out all the great channels. Mine will be over there, and so will Corie's. So for our third thrift flip today, I already had this box shelf. It had a nick in it from when I moved over about 1.5 years ago, and so I never put it up. And I'm like, how can I cover this thing? I love it. I've used it 100 times. I bought it at Michael's years ago, probably 10 years ago, for like $5.50 or something like that. So, and that was brand new. So it came not stained, and so I took furniture polish, which is Old English furniture polish, and just covered it and stained it, and it did well so for years. But then when we moved, it got a nick in it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm putting the Waverly wax brown wax, wow, that was hard to say, in the grooves. And because you can't just like wipe that in with a paper towel, I wanted to make sure that I got it down in the grooves and got it really good and saturated so that I wasn't getting shadows. And I kind of go around all the edges with my paintbrush with the wax on there, and I am using the last dredges of the bottom of this bottle, and I'm praying that I make it to the end, and I did. Actually, I was like, oh, thank goodness. But I don't know that until I get to the end, because I was like, oh, I've just got a little bit left. So I'm covering up that big scuff mark. And then, of course, now I'm taking the wet paper towel. I've got a wet paper towel. And just like if it was, you could use a baby wipe too, but that's what I had, was I'm out of baby wipes. So I used a wet paper towel to go over and wipe the excess stain off. Now I've got in here and I thought, oh, I better glue these down before I get that stain on there, and I won't be able to get them to adhere well. So I take the hot glue and I just start making out my own pattern, and I'm only going to put these on the front just because I don't like wasting them, and I don't want to overdo it. And so I just make my own pattern and my own spacing in there, and I'm only using hot glue on it. It turned out perfect, and when I go to stain it, it worked out great. So here in a minute, I'm pulling all these hot glue strings off. Wow, I am so tongue-tied tonight. It's getting late. So again, I take my paintbrush and I'm going over all the edges. I'm thinking I'm getting it really good, and I'm putting the Waverly wax on there, and I'm going through all the edges, and then I'm going to take my wet paper towel and I'm going to wipe the excess off, just like I do over and over again until it's done, because I want the whole shelf to have this wooden look, because in the end I'm trying to make this vignette on my wall, and all of these things are a wall that I'm using, or that I'm decorating in my house. So I want it all to blend and match, and so I've used the same color wax to basically stain everything. Like with the first project, I used it to stain the wood piece, and then I used a sisal rope, so it all blends together. So I just use the Waverly again. I'm using the wax on top of the whole thing, and then again I will rub it in with the wet paper towel and finish it all up. Look, see, I noticed that there's a lot of on the top that I didn't get because it was, you have to remember that I am doing this from the side and I cannot see the back side of stuff when I'm trying to show you. So sometimes I have to redo it because I can't see it until I get it flipped over. I'm working on I think that table's about 36 inches tall, and I'm only 5 foot. So, I'm vertically challenged, and so sometimes it takes me a couple of times to see over the top of stuff and make sure that where you're getting a great view of it, I'm not getting a very good view. Now here it is on the wall, and you can't even tell it had that scratch mark in it. It turned out perfect. All right, so this next project is our 4th flip, and it is a giant gold and hunter green Crackle mirror. Now, I would have left it if it was all gold because I do have brass pieces in my living room that would have matched with it okay. But because of the green Crackle paint, there's no way to hide that, and I didn't want that. It just dated it really bad. So I was like, okay, farmhouse, here we go. Which is what my living room is pretty much, is farmhouse or repurposed stuff is what I like to call it. So I mean it is farmhouse, but a lot of it is antiques and things like that I've had for years and years and years, and so I'm loving showing some of those antiques off that I never got to in my other house. So I'm going to use the white linen Rust-Oleum chalk paint. I give this mirror 3 coats, and of course I have covered the mirror part with the brown paper that is like a painter's paper that you get at Walmart. It's like $3.60 for a roll of, I think it's more than 100 foot, but it might be just 100 foot. I've had this roll since I was painting my house a year and a half ago, and I've used the far out of it, and I still got more of it left. I usually use it under painting things when I paint on my table that's not, when I'm painting things that aren't white. And so I use it as like a drop cloth, basically. It's because I can just, pick it up, flip it over after it dries, and use the other side of it. Make sure that you get the edges really good. I don't know if you can tell right there where it kind of lifted on the paper. I should have scooted it over and used the tape right up against it. I really didn't have that much bleed over because I had tucked the paper underneath, but when I moved it, it kind of pulled loose. So you might want to use painter's tape all the way around your mirror, which I didn't do. But it really wasn't that hard to, or even that much to clean up, just a few little spots here and there. Now you can see it hanging on the wall. I haven't taken the paper off because the mirror was just too shiny at that point to use. All right, well, the 6th time I try to record this should be the charm, right? Okay, so I got these little pieces. They're little shelf sitters is what I call them, little pieces that just, they're really not the main focus of your vignette, but you still need little things to fill in with the big pieces. So I buy these little ceramic pieces, and my plan is to paint them with the white Waverly chalk paint. And the kitty cat and the watering can, I give 2 coats of the white Waverly chalk paint. Then I'm going to do the duck in a guave blue that is the Waverly. And because the duck has a really shiny super ceramic coat on it, it doesn't take well. I mean, it takes fine when I put the first coat on it. But then when I go to do the white wax over it, it just does, it wipes right off. So here in a minute, you're going to see me do it. I was trying to do the same colors that I saw a girl, Julie, and I cannot think of Julie's channel's name, but she does thrift flips all the time. And she took some ducks back about a month and a half ago, and she colored them about this color and used the white wax from Waverly on top of them. They turned out so stinking cute. I love little ceramic animals anyway, and I like them painted solid. I don't like them like painted with lots of color, but I do like solid print one or solid colored ones. And so I did cover that duck, but as you can see, if you can see right up there in the top left-hand corner, it rubbed off a little bit. So I've repainted it and I'm letting it dry, and I even let it dry overnight and it did it again. Now here's the white Waverly chalk, or wax, white Waverly wax, that I wipe over the white on there. And when you wipe it over white, you can't tell, it doesn't change the color on white. It looks a little yellow, but it's not. It dries white. So I did that because I didn't want the kitty cat and the thing to be chalky looking. And anyway, it worked on the white pieces. It did not work on the blue because of the shiny. Now I'm going to make a little flower arrangement with this watering can. And what I'm doing is cutting the styrofoam out. I'm going to hot glue it down inside of there. And then I'm going to cover the base of the styrofoam with the Spanish moss, which you can get at Dollar Tree, or I've had this for years and I had a bunch of it cut up, and so it looks like I'm a drug dealer, even though I'm not, of Spanish moss. But anyway, it looks a little funny, but that's how I had it, because I had used a bunch of it cut up, and so I keep using that bag full of it. So now this little flower plant I got from Walmart, and it was like $2 a bush, and I'm just cutting each of the sprigs off and I'm just sticking them down into the styrofoam. I am not hot gluing them because I like to change out my picks. Sometimes I put holiday picks in there in my flower arrangements just to give it a little bit of zhuzh for the holidays. And there we go. So there you can see the duck, and it has some of it on there, but in the back where I hid it, so you can see, it has a piece wiped off. Now here's my whole vignette together. I finally took the tape off the mirror so that you could see everything. I love all of these pieces. They turned out super cute, and I don't know, it was just a great thing. Now I want to thank all of you that are new, and especially those that are old that have stuck with me this long. It has been a great 2 weeks. Thank you for subscribing, and have a great weekend.